Hi guys, we're going to go ahead and cover the structure of the heart just in case there's a snow day because we got to stay on track and we're starting to get behind because of all of our snow days. So you may need to watch this video more than once, but you should be able to get both sides of the worksheet done after you see this, okay? We're going to start right here. Before we get started though, we do need to know a couple of important things, and that is the difference between an artery and a vein. An artery, as it says up here, carries blood away from the heart. And normally, any kind of blood that's going away from the heart is rich in oxygen, which is what you need, okay? Veins take blood to the heart, and veins usually are carrying blood that is very rich with CO2, which is a waste product that we eventually exhale, okay? So, we're going to start over here. We've got these two major veins that bring blood back to the heart. This top vein, and there's some little vessels that are going across it in this picture, but this top vein is called the superior vena cava, or superior vena cava, as sometimes it's called. As you can see, it's got the word vein in it, so you know that it's taking blood to the heart. And superior, if you're the top dog, you're the superior dog. So this is bringing blood from the top of the body, okay? This one down here is called the inferior vena cava. And obviously if you're the inferior dog, you're the bottom dog. So it's bringing blood up from the bottom portion of your body. These are the only two veins that go directly into the heart, okay? Then right here, you've got your right atrium, okay? There are 4 chambers in the heart, in the human heart. This is the right atrium, which then goes down. This is a valve. The blood comes either from the top of the body or the bottom of the body into the right atrium. That's the first place that it goes. Then the blood's going to get pumped down from the right atrium into this thing called the right ventricle. This ventricle looks like the letter V, so that's how you can remember that the bottom chambers are called ventricles, okay? And it gets it goes through this valve right here. It's called the tricuspid valve, and we'll talk about how it got that name later on. But after it's in the right ventricle, now you'll notice that this blood is colored blue, and your blood the reason it's coming back to the heart is because it's low in oxygen, so it has to get pumped to the lungs so it can pick up oxygen, and it's carrying lots of carbon dioxide right now. So it's going to go from this ventricle out this valve right here, which is the pulmonary valve, okay? We're going to take it to the lungs, okay? It's going to go here. It could go this way or it could go this way because you have 2 lungs, so it could go to either side. And now the lungs aren't shown on here, but in the lungs, something very important happens, and that is it drops off the carbon dioxide and it picks up oxygen, okay? So now that that blood has been circulated through your lungs and it's gotten rid of the waste and it's picked up a new load of carbon dioxide for your cells, it's got to go back to the heart because your heart is a pump, okay? That's its only job. It's a muscle that pumps blood. It's made of the special cardiac muscle cells that we learned about last week. So after it's been in the lungs, then it's going to come back through these. Okay, now these are called pulmonary veins. Remember, veins take blood to the heart, okay? So these are pulmonary veins. Then they go to this is the left atrium. Now when you're looking at it this way, it would look like it's on the right-hand side, but actually you have to think about it as if it were in you. This is my right, this is my left, okay? So this is the left atrium. It will then get pumped. The blood will go down through this valve, which is the bicuspid valve, and we'll learn these valves later. And it'll go into this is the left ventricle. And then the left ventricle, which is a very thick-walled, because it has to pump blood to the entire body. So it's going to pump blood out of this valve right here through this rounded, very, very strong what's called the aorta. It's a blood vessel. It's called the aorta. And eventually it goes down to the lower part of the body and it takes it up to your brain. So the aorta is the largest artery in the body, okay? It takes blood very rich in oxygen. Now, there's a couple of things that we need to talk about. This little thing right here in the middle of that separates the two sides, the right and the left side. Okay, and remember, this is the left side, this is the right side. The top chambers are the atriums, bottom chambers are the ventricles. This thing right here that separates them is called a septum. Just like you have a septum in your nose, you have a septum that separates the two sides of your heart. Around the heart, you have what's called a pericardium. It's like a little sac that is around the heart. Okay, and we'll talk about that when you get back. If you see the word cardio or cardium, that means heart. Okay? Now, the other thing that I want to talk to you about is, over here, Maddie, the pulmonary arteries and veins. Okay, anytime you hear the word pulmonary, I'm talking about lungs. Okay? Pulmonary refers to lungs. Now, there is one specific, well, there's actually two things you need to know. Usually, arteries, since they're going away from the heart, they're going to carry blood that's very rich in oxygen, okay, because they've just been to the lungs. So any blood that leaves your heart is very rich in oxygen. However, there is one artery that's completely opposite, and that's the pulmonary artery, because right here, blood that's very rich in carbon dioxide, not oxygen, is leaving the heart. So it's still called an artery, but it's going to the lungs. So it hasn't picked up the oxygen yet. Now, there's also the opposite thing with this particular vein. Usually, veins are carrying blood that's rich in carbon dioxide, not oxygen. So like the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava, they're very rich in carbon dioxide, which is not, we try to get rid of that. So since this was over here was the lung, and this is a vein that's going back to the heart, but however, this vein right here has just been to the lung, so it's a vein that's very rich in oxygen, okay? So it brings oxygen-rich blood. So the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary vein are opposite of all other arteries and veins, okay? The last thing that I'm going to talk to you about today is that arteries, which go away from the heart, they're very big, they get smaller, they're called arterioles, and then they become very small. These are red blood cells. Capillaries are veins, or they're blood vessels that are teeny, teeny, tiny. They're about the thickness of a hair, and red blood cells have to go through them single file. And then they open back up. This is where all the cells get their oxygen, and then they pick up the CO2. The red blood cells carry that. And so then they go into the veins, and then it goes back to the heart. Your heart is all about pumping blood. That's all it does. It's part of the circulatory system, and it circulates blood throughout your entire body. Now let's go over this worksheet stuff real quick. Okay? You should have, we're going to start right up here on the left side, okay, which is actually the right side of your heart, okay? But you should have the superior vena cava. I don't know if you can see that very well. The next one is the right pulmonary artery. It's pointing to these right here. The next one down is the right pulmonary vein. This doesn't look very clear on my video, so I'm hoping you can see it. Right here is the right atrium. It's pointing to this chamber. Okay, and then it talks about the tricuspid valve. We'll talk about those later. These two valves right here, this one and this one, those are called semilunar valves. Don't worry about those. We'll get to those later also. I just want you to get these written in. This right here is your inferior vena cava. Remember, if you're the superior dog, you're on top. Inferior dog's on the bottom. Okay? Then we've got this right here. This is your aorta. Okay, a major blood vessel. This is on the right-hand side now. Okay, you've got your left pulmonary artery, your left pulmonary vein, the left atrium, the bicuspid valve. I don't know if you can read that or not. Doesn't look like it. Your left ventricle. Okay, that's this right here is your left ventricle, and then the septum. The right ventricle didn't have a line on it, and it was down at the bottom. It points to this one right here. Okay? I want you to see if you can figure out the back side. The order should be pretty good. You can look this video over again, and after that, I think you're okay. Thanks.
Your right is